Hi guys, how you doing? I just wanted to make a few comments about last night when President Duterte went live on air to address the nation. You know, when he did this, some people were kind of putting angry faces and making ridiculously stupid comments, but I want to say this. One of the reasons why I love President Duterte is that he doesn't mince his words. He says what needs to be said. He explains things for the man on the street to understand. He speaks in language that people will get. You know, he doesn't display any of the usual politics that some world leaders do. He doesn't hide behind long and complicated words. He doesn't explain things in such a way that it becomes a riddle to some people, and some people really don't understand what he has to say. It's very, very simple. Last night, President Duterte was speaking about the community quarantine in the Philippines, and he was talking about the ECQ and the GCQ and why they had to do what they had to do. So he was explaining about lockdown. You know, he was explaining in simple terms to the Filipino people why lockdown was so important. And he is explaining the dilemma that he faced. That if he suddenly released lockdown, if he suddenly allowed life to continue as it was before, he basically said, we'll get thousands and thousands of more cases and then we'll be in deep shit. now, you know, I wouldn't imagine President Trump saying that, or I wouldn't imagine Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying that. But that's the reality of the situation. You know, it's very easy for a politician to use the corporate language, if you like, and speak in such a way that the masses don't really understand them. But the fact is, President Duterte was honest with the Filipino people. President Duterte laid it on the line. He explained the dilemma that he has in releasing all of these community quarantines. He explained the situation that if he allows life to go back to normal completely, the country would be in deep shit. That's the reality of it. So you see, President Duterte genuinely cares about the Filipino people. He genuinely listens to what the experts have to say. He said himself, he's not making these decisions himself. He's making them based on the evidence of experts. Experts are making those decisions. What the president simply does is he sits down in the evening and he explains to people in a language they can understand. There's no point hiding behind politics. There's no point hiding behind rhetoric. There's no point pretending things are going to be okay when they're not. He understands the pressures. He understands the pressures of the ordinary Filipino. He understands the pressures that people in poverty are facing, which is why, of course, that he borrowed money to ensure that those who needed help and need support will get that support. You know, President Duterte, during the height of the pandemic, he had to keep away from his family for more than 12 weeks. He stayed in lockdown in Manila and kept away from Davao City. You know, his family's there, his daughter's there, and yet, you know, he made sacrifices. So, you know, everybody's making sacrifices during this pandemic, including the president himself. So what got me last night was when some people were making rude comments and everything and saying, oh, why is it so early in the morning? Why is the speech so early in the morning? But people have to understand President Duterte is a president who doesn't sleep. He works tirelessly 24 hours a day for the Filipino people. You know, the situation is that President Duterte really puts in so much effort. You know, he treats the Philippines as his family. He treats the Filipino people as his children. That's why he's so honest. That's why he doesn't hide behind politics. And that's why he doesn't just say things because people want to hear that. He explains the situation. He said already that he can't allow kids to go back to school until there's a vaccine. He said already that he can't allow the situation to return to how it was until there is a medicine. He's given a clear timeline on when things might happen. Of course, I'm very sure that the president sympathizes with the Filipino people. You know, this is not only affecting the Philippines, this is affecting the whole world. But some leaders, you know, they say all these fancy words. But the reality is, if you look at the amount of cases in the Philippines, there are a lot less than some Western countries. And the number of deaths in the Philippines are a lot less than some Western countries. And that is because Filipinos obey the rule of law. Filipinos are not holding street parties till 3 o'clock in the morning, inviting all their friends. You know, they are observing community quarantine, they are wearing masks, they are observing lockdown, and that has saved lives. The discipline that President Duterte was able to ensure in Davao has actually reached the whole Philippines. The Filipino people listen very carefully to the words of the president, but there are still going to be some people who wish to destabilize the country. There are still going to be some people who criticize the president, and there are still some people calling for this oust Duterte. Now, they've been calling for oust Duterte since day one, so you almost wonder whether this oust Duterte campaign has achieved anything. In fact, I believe it's actually made the Philippines stronger and the president stronger, because now the president is more determined to work for the Filipino people, to fight for the Filipino people. Yes, of course, President Duterte relies on others, and there are some times that he is let down by others, unfortunately. But President Duterte can only do so much. You know, it requires the combined effort. You know, there is less corruption, there is less poverty. The Philippines is going in the right direction. The Philippines is rising. The infrastructure in the country is improving. There are many improvements, but of course during lockdown there has been an issue. You know, during lockdown some of the programs of the president have had to be put on hold. But you know, I do believe the country is going in the right direction. And Tin Yap Alcantara, I would agree with you, oust Duterte has failed. You know, the ours Duterte is far exceeding the oust Duterte. The people who support the president far exceed the number of people who are against him. I have no doubt that there'll be many improvements, and I will have no doubt that the president will continue to work tirelessly for the Filipino people. I'd like to send the president my very best wishes, you know, my prayers and my deepest care for him. You know, he's not getting any younger. He's well over 70, I believe 75. But age is just a number. You know, the president is like a father of the nation, a father to the Filipino people. And I know he has the prayers of many, many Filipinos across the world. But not only the prayers of many people, he has the prayers of other nationals as well. You know, I pray for him all the time. I pray that he is going to continue in his mission to make a comfortable life for all Filipinos. Tim Yap Alcantara, yes, you're right, mostly Filipinos don't like to support our government, but instead always complaining. But thank you, sir, for always being there, for always supporting him. Yeah, you know, I understand that people get frustrated. I understand that people want things to happen fast. But it's a process, you know. The Philippines is going in the right direction, and people just need to trust the president. You know, the President Duterte is a man who cares greatly for the people. He doesn't mince his words. He doesn't hide behind political rhetoric. He says it very, very clearly. If we don't do this, we're in deep shit. Right. I admire you, President Duterte. Thank you so much for your incredible leadership. Thank you so much for looking after the Filipino people. And thank you so much for your time in office so far. I know you have many great plans for the Philippines. And I'm very sure that when you have finished your term of office, I'm very sure but there will be a successor to you who will care for the country just as greatly and will do the right thing for the Philippines and the Filipino people. Mabuhay.